On tonight's episode of the CHGO Cubs related podcast, the 9-6 Cubs head west, a tough 14-game stretch ahead. Justin Steele hits the injured list. We'll talk about the starts of all the players and look ahead and more on today's episode of the CHGO Cubs related podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs related podcast driven by Toyota. Let's go places and bet 365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Use code CHGO365 at sign up. Hello, everyone, and welcome in to this edition of the CHGO Cubs related podcast. We've got some fresh new branding. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you tonight, and I have lost the date, whatever the date is, Brendan.
April 10th, Corey. April 10th. When the Cubs don't play, there is no date.
I have no idea what day of the week it is, what time it is.
I know nothing.
Yeah. So on today's episode, plenty to talk about as the Cubs head out west for 3 in Los Angeles, 3 in San Diego. We will talk about Justin Steele hitting the injured list. We'll talk about the options, some of the decisions the Cubs have to make as it relates to the rotation. Want to take a look at the starts from Dansby, Swanson, and Nico Hoerner. Brendan, are you interested in talking about the Cubs middle infield at all? Is that something that interests you?
Just a few minutes, Corey.
Okay.
Just a few minutes.
If you want, we can.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just for you.
Thank you.
And we'll take a look at the bullpen. We'll talk about everything going on with the Cubs. But firstly, Brendan, I want to, before we'll get to Justin Steele, want to talk about that and the starting situation. I want to start just generally, though. Cubs finish a tough homestand, 4-2. They beat the Padres and the Rangers. They win both of those series. Disappointing finishes, the way that those series ended, but such is life. They head 9-6 out west for a really tough 14-game stretch. Their schedule has not been easy thus far in the first place, Brendan. But coming up, you have 3 with LA, 3 with San Diego, 3 with Arizona, 2 more with LA, and then 3 with the Phillies. This is about as brutal of a stretch, I would guess, as any team in the National League has this entire season. How do you feel about where the Cubs have positioned themselves after this first homestand, and how do you feel about them heading out on this first road trip, especially with the knowledge that they will be missing Justin Steele?
It's still early, 9-6, given the context of Japan, the West Coast trip. A 9-6 start is realistically almost as good as you could have asked for. That being said, you got to finish it up. And the trends we've seen thus far offensively have been spectacular. We're talking about going into yesterday's game, a walk rate that was the best in the National League as a team, a base running score, which I'm sure you and I will talk about, second best. And we're seeing them hit those marginal first or third examples. Slugging as well. So 4th best slugging. The room for improvement is what we've seen. Bullpen, more strikeouts, and tightening up the late leverage innings. And that will make up a lot of our discussions and how they can improve and capitalize on what will be an easy May once they finish up this month.
Yeah, I think overall, as we've talked about, and the each week that we continue to be able to say this, the more exciting it is. But the brand of baseball they're playing is
clean,
very nice. They are playing clean. Yeah, they are taking their walks. They're forcing pitchers, of course, not every day, but they are forcing opposing pitchers to throw a lot of pitches. We've seen a lot of starters in these games have to work pretty hard to get through this Cubs lineup. They're stealing bases at a clip I cannot remember watching a Chicago Cubs team, and almost doing so completely undefeated. Just almost perfect in their base.
It's what I wanted Juan Pierre to do when we got him in 2006.
Yes, right. But they're, again, taking walks, and we've seen them win in a variety of ways from an offensive perspective. We've seen them blow the doors off teams. We've seen them in a handful of these games put up nice, big, crooked numbers. We've also seen them play a little bit of small ball at times, like getting runners on, getting them over, getting them in, situationally hitting, and bringing those runners in from third, things like that. So I think a really good start to things, especially from the offensive perspective. And like you said, generally to be 9-6 after the teams they played after the start in Japan, I think you feel pretty good about the way they've positioned themselves ahead of a very difficult stretch. And we don't lay out that this stretch is coming up to, sort of suggest like, oh, it's okay if they lose or no big deal. But it's just to acknowledge this is a lot of really good teams in a row. You're going to be doing it. They, were out west, then they're going now again out west, a lot of games with the Dodgers. It's a tough schedule. And I think we can be okay with that and not panic if it isn't the best road trip we've ever seen. Now, on the other side of that, if they get through these 14 games, continuing to play really well and come out of it with a winning record, I think we're all going to get a little carried away with what this team might be capable of if they're able to do that without Justin Steele. So let's transition into Justin Steele. Obviously not the news that any of us were hoping for or really expecting after watching him dominate in his most recent start, but he does hit the IL with elbow tendonitis. And all the reports, Brendan, sound hopefully a minimum stay. He was in good spirits when the media spoke to him over the weekend. It's something he's dealt with before, and he's had minimum stays on the IL. So initially, I'm not freaking out about this, but it is one of those things, as we've talked about, this team really relying heavily on him and Shota Imanaga to be a strong 1-2 and be those top of the rotation guys, because you're not quite positive what the rest of that rotation and depth is going to give you. And even if they feel good about it, hopefully it's just a minimum stay and the Cubs are just being cautious, which is a fine thing to do in April. But until he's back out there looking good and looking healthy, it's hard not to have at least a little bit of worry in the back of your head.
The worry, too, is that he's yet to go over 175 innings. Now, this year, maybe they're deep enough that it doesn't matter. But going forward, if you want your top two guys on the staff to anchor the rotation, then they would require going 30-plus starts over 175 innings with some degree of consistency. Now, he did that in 2023 when he had 173 innings. The last year, hamstring, also had a little bit of an elbow hiccup, only 134 innings. Taking a step back, it's just disappointing that you're already having an obstacle to reach his goal. He said explicitly he wants to be that perennial 30-start guy. And so an early season hiccup like this, and let's hope it is a hiccup, by all intents and purposes, he made it sound like it is a hiccup, but until we see the imaging, we just don't know. It's unfortunate to see that happen. Then again, silver lining, Jordan Wicks may get an opportunity. Cade Horton, which maybe there's not enough time for this. Cade Horton, Corey, his fastball shape is looking insane compared to last year.
I do want to talk about those two people in particular. I do love the language that you said, until we see the imaging. Did they send you the MRI results?
I got the software to look at it, Corey. Yeah. I'm not kidding you. I can look at it.
Tommy Hodavi's in Craig Counsell's office. Like, I think it looks fine, but we got to get Dr. Miller in here and see what he thinks about it.
Well, I'm not that kind of doctor,
Yeah. The only thing I would add is that, this is something we talked about all through the offseason when we were looking at, will they go after someone like Corbin Burns? Will they go after Jack Flaherty even late in the offseason? Are they going to trade for Jesus Luzardo? One of the things we really hammered on, and this is not a knock on Steele or Imanaga, I've said repeatedly that if they went into a playoff series with those two guys ready to go, pitching game 1, game 2, I'd feel very good about that. I'd feel very confident about that.
Full strength.
I'd be ready to go. Yeah. That being said, neither of them have done it. And that was one of the concerns. Neither of these guys has gone pole to pole, make 30 plus starts and go deep into October and show that they can kind of do that. It's not to say that they can't, but to already be in a situation where Steele is dealing with another injury, not his fault. These things happen. But it does just sort of highlight one of those offseason concerns, which was, one, do they have enough starting pitching depth? And two, do they have that enough talent at that top level, not just to get them through the season, but to take them through potentially winning a division, going through the playoffs, and playing deep into October, or sometimes with the way the MLB does it, early November. And again, not to say that they can't do it or that I don't believe they can, but
you just don't have a history
not.
Of
we
that
just
happening.
Don't know it. And I remember we talked about, I think, the trade deadline. And I think you asked me, like, what do you think their number one thing should be if you could only allocate the money? And this was in the offseason. And I think my answer might be bullpen help, but that's just because we've seen it. But my answer at the time was a top level starting pitcher if they're available, because I just don't see any way that the group that started the year, if you fast forward and told me the Cubs are playing in the NLCS, I just would be stunned that it looks like that, Shota game 1, Steele game 2, Tyone game 3, Matthew Boyd game 4. I just would be very surprised if they're able to get everybody there and feel like they're able to navigate the playoffs with that group.
It's a flexible, fluid situation. The Dodgers last year, they went into their playoffs thinking they would have Tyler Glasnow, and they had a bullpen game in an elimination game against the Padres in NLDS. So it's fluid. It's making, from my perspective, it's making the roster appropriate to have flexibility. So if that means by July, you want to bake in some pitching options through the trade deadline, then go for it. The biggest point of optimism for me is that the Bregman failure of the signing still represents that if they are competitive, then they have about 25 to 30 million to spend. And I know fans don't want to hear that, because then the pushback is, well, they should have done that before the season started, instead of banking away Cody Bellinger's trade salary clearance. But the way the trajectory is going, if the offense is to be the sustainable, if Dansby looks healthy, Nico looks healthy, Tucker is the same guy, as Seiya continues that trajectory, well, then right now, the more than likely scenarios, they will be competitive by mid to late June, and they will have opportunities to either improve significantly in the bullpen, as you mentioned, or maybe improve significantly either in the form of consolidating one guy for a big time starting pitcher, or spreading it out and building that depth.
Yeah. So before we hit our first ad break here, I want to talk about some of the options. So, and I'm looking at this as we are live on the air right now. It's a little after 8 in Chicago on Thursday. So keep your eyes peeled on this. This might be an ever evolving process. But Tommy Birch, the great writer for the Des Moines Register, who covers the Iowa Cubs, said that Jordan Wicks was scheduled to start after Cade Horton in the Iowa Cubs rotation, but he is no longer on the pitching probables. But as we record this, no news, no official confirmation or anything like that, no roster moves. And then just on Cade Horton, he actually pitched earlier on Thursday, struck out 6, but I believe walked 4. And I do want to read this from Tommy, because I'm sure a lot of people, if there is an opening, and when we come back from our ad break, we can talk about how the Cubs might actually address this. But I do want to read this because he's there covering this all the time. I think there are going to be a lot of people that maybe think, why don't we go Cade Horton now? If there's an opening, if Steele misses any time, why don't we pull this string now? And this is what Tommy said. I've noticed a little drop in velocity from Cade Horton after the first inning or two in his first 2 starts. Probably a sign that he's building his way back up. Also a sign that he's going to need some time. The reason I read that is just to suggest Cade Horton is a massive prospect for this team. He's
arguably the best prospect in the system.
And one of the best, if not the best pitching prospect this team has had in a long time.
Since Hill.
Picking that battle correctly and timing that moment is really important. And if the Cubs envision that he's ready, he's stretched out, and he is good to hop in this rotation if the opportunity is there and just go, then
Yeah.
great. But I don't know that they have that opportunity right now. And I was listening to Brett and Michael, our friends over at the Bleacher Nation Cubs podcast earlier. I thought they made a good point on that, in that vein, which was, I don't know that I want to bring him up until you're sure that the role is there and he can just go. I don't know that I want to bring him up just to make a spot start and then maybe go back down. I know the Cubs have started some guys in the bullpen when they first came up. Just making sure there's a role there, making sure that he is ready, gets those walks under control, gets stretched out a little bit, as Tommy mentioned, like getting, if there is a velo dip as he's going deeper in the games, that'll come in time. Get stretched out and get there. But he's a very important prospect. And I would, not that I would say preach patience, but picking the correct spot for Cade Horton is the correct spot for the Chicago Cubs, not the other way around, is how I would kind of phrase that.
Right. And before the ad break here, just quick 20 seconds. It's different than promoting the hitting prospects. The biggest differentiator is that the volume of confident data for pitching makes decisions more confident as a result. So you pointed out that Tommy Hotteby said, well, he's still building up based on how the velocity is dipping. Our good friend Brian Smith also pointed out that he's starting games at sometimes throwing fastballs with like 17 to 20 inches of induced vertical break. Now, 20 inches is like the max you see in Major League Baseball. The average is 16. Justin Steele's at 13 with cut. That cut's important. He has the same amount of cut as Justin Steele, but from the right-handed side and more carry. But that shape is dipping as the game goes along. So velocity is dipping, but so is the shape. So until that evens out, I don't believe he'll be up, because you want him to be at full stamina, that he can give it his all best, and that way there's no pushing it and risking injury. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll hit our first ad break here, and then we'll come back and talk about Jordan Wicks, Colin Ray, how the Cubs may approach the starting rotation as we head into this tough part of the schedule.
Okay, Toyota's got 25 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. They have more than any other auto brand. Chicago can be brutal, but Toyota helps make it easier. Chicago was like, 30 degrees over there the past couple of days? Toyota would have made it easier. From the sleek Camry all-wheel drive to their Corolla hybrid all-wheel drive, and the Toyota Tundra is a truck that's known for its power, durability, and off-road capabilities, is perfect for those Chicago rough winters and early springs. If you're headed to the big game, the spacious Grand Highlander is the perfect ride with all-wheel drive to keep you and yours safe. So you bring the action, and Toyota will bring the traction. Toyota, let's go places. And become a CHGO diehard and upgrade your fandom today. You can get access to exclusive written content, a free t-shirt, plenty of discounts on future merch and events, plus access to our CHGO Discord lounge, where we all hang out and talk Chicago sports and so much more. Go to allchgo.com for the latest information on how you can join thousands of CHGO diehards in our community. We can't wait to connect with you on an ever greater level. Boston Beer, light beer, just got better. It's clean, crisp, and super easy to drink. No gimmicks, no fluff. Sam Adams American Light is not your average light beer. Is brewed with 100% American-sourced ingredients from local independent farmers. It's a light beer that's made right. My first beer ever, Corey, was actually a Sam Adams. All right. So Sam Adams and I, we go way back, and that light beer, the best light beer. Light beer should not feel like a compromise, and Sam Adams does not compromise. An American classic so smooth, you'll want to crack open another one. Is always Sam season. Light beer just got better. Grab some Sam Adams American Light, available now at select Chicago retailers. Must be 21 or over. Please drink responsibly.
All right, Brendan. So getting back into things, let's talk how the Cubs address this. Now, the interesting piece of this schedule here is that the Cubs have several off days in this stretch. I mentioned that 14-game stretch that starts with these 6 starting tomorrow night on the West Coast. Then they have an off day next Thursday, then back for 3 against Arizona, another off day, 2 against LA, another off day, and then the Phillies, and then another off day. So as we're kind of thinking how long Justin Steele might be out, if it is a minimum stay, it is something to consider that it's not one of those stretches as we've seen, like the 2018 Cubs, for example, not to, bring up a poor memory,
Well,
but
you are.
this team does not have to play 30 games in the next 30 days or something like that. So that's nice. So just keeping in mind that they have a lot of off days baked in, they can move some guys around, and maybe they're not going to need a full 5-man rotation every turn as we go forward here. My guess would be that Jordan Wicks gets an opportunity. I think the question, though, is as of this moment, it seems as though the game in question here is Sunday for the Dodgers in this series. That is the one game that the Cubs do not have a probable starter listed. And we'll see if they decide to make a move before this. But I tend to wonder, Brendan, if the Cubs don't kind of just wait out and see how these next couple games go. Don't have Jordan Wicks make that start in Iowa so that he is available. Keep him ready in the event that you want it. But I don't know if they get through these next couple games with deeper starts and only needing to use guys like Porter Hodge or Ryan Presley or Julian Merriweather out of the bullpen. Maybe you let Colin Ray take that game and see how it goes rather than making the roster moves. I don't necessarily know. I would love to see Jordan Wicks getting an opportunity. He was always one of those guys coming into the year that I was hoping would be able to get opportunities and maybe see if he could take that next step. But I think the question for this moment immediately is, do the Cubs need to make these moves right now, and how would they prefer to attack this? Also, like, congratulations to whomever it is that they decide. Get on to LA on Sunday. You're going up against Tyler Glass now, and you get to pitch to Freddie Freeman, who very conveniently is coming back this weekend. Isn't that nice for everybody?
Maybe it will be Colin Ray because of that. But the biggest thing is Justin Steele's health. So who makes that start on Sunday? I'll be honest, I don't really care. From a fan's perspective, I enjoy watching Jordan Wicks pitch, so I'd like to see Jordan Wicks pitch. If that means, though, they want to use Colin Ray and keep Jordan Wicks on this Iowa stretched out regimen, then sure, go with that. But the biggest important factor in this whole situation is how severe is Justin Steele's elbow tendonitis? Is it going to be just the minimal one start miss, as you're alluding to with the off days, or is it going to be a wait and see type game? And if it is a wait and see game, then like the Ben Brown situation where you did give him the reins to be the fifth starter, I would try to do the same with Jordan Wicks. Just get him exposed to that MLB environment, get that adjustment cycle accelerated, because if Steele is going to miss, let's say it's not one start, let's say it's potentially 3 starts, 4 starts, 5 starts. Well, my ceiling for Wicks is higher than that of Colin Ray's, just like it is for Ben Brown versus Colin Ray. So I'd like to play the high ceiling game, but it all depends on what we see back from Justin Steele.
Yeah, I of course, the most important thing is Justin Steele. If it's more than nothing, it creates a whole different conversation, I think, for this team. And, maybe would create some urgency as it related to looking at other options, or maybe that would push up the Cade Horton timeline. I don't know.
Also it sucks too. We don't have, Javi Assad. We haven't even talked about him for the past, what is it, 3 months?
When he hurt himself. His way back too. Yeah.
Yeah. So that he was a significant part of the staff last year, threw over 140 innings, and he's not even working his way back. So the Cubs have been hit a little bit here.
I hate to have it happen so early, but, I remember when we were looking at that big list of their, pitching depth and options, and, talking about how some of the guys maybe weren't so exciting, or, this, that, or the other. But the kind of mainstay point was they have to. They're going to need these guys.
Have you seen Kyle Hendricks' stat line so far?
Say again?
Have you seen Kyle Hendricks' stat line so far? I was just thinking
good, hasn't he, though?
He has 2 starts.
One of them was against the Cardinals, so that's a cheat code for him.
11 innings, he's given up 2 runs. Just saying,
Well, just if only somebody on this show had said, for everybody to calm down about DFAing him after.
To be fair, though, I would probably not have paid Kyle Hendricks still. No, so they probably made the right decision. It didn't make sense,
but it's funny to think about.
It is.
Yeah, they're going to need this pitching depth. They're going to need guys to step up, and especially in the time that Steele misses, Shota's going to have to be that guy. He looks it so far this year. Obviously, not the start he wanted against Texas, but those starts have happened. I don't really care about that. he's going to have to be that top guy. Matthew Boyd going to need to keep pitching like this, stay healthy, and you're going to need more of the quality start Jameson Tyone versus the, short start. Hope
he looked a lot better last
blow
start.
Yes, I agree.
A lot better.
But it puts so much more of a burden on those guys to continue being that, because otherwise this pitching staff, with the way the bullpen has performed, and I do expect them to get better, settle in a little bit, etc. But the starters going shorter or imploding, like that type of thing, to go along with how this bullpen has started, not going to be a recipe for success. So it's nice that the Cubs have put up 10 runs a few times and look to be able to score in bunches, but maybe you don't want to ask them to bail out the pitching staff on a nightly basis. So yeah, hopefully Justin is able to work his way back and it's not some lingering thing, and we'll see how the Cubs decide to approach this and what they decide to do on Sunday. Right now, it's Matthew Boyd and Ben Brown for those first 2 games in Los Angeles, and we will see what they decide to do for the finale with the Dodgers on Sunday. But yes, hope that Justin Steele is healthy. That's going to be the most important thing, getting him back and getting him pitching at, that elite, closer to Cy Young level that we've seen him at. That's going to be the most important thing for this team.
The unfortunate part to Steele's timing is that he looked really good in that start, dude. I had tweeted out his pitch map, and he was just darting that inside black portion of the strike zone to right-handed batters with that four-seam fastball, and then perfectly mirroring below the belt those sliders. And it's unfortunate that, of course, the last 2 innings he has that tightness come up. And I was listening to Sahadev and Patrick Mooney of The Athletic, and their interpretation, talking with Steele in the clubhouse, was that he did not want to go on the IL. And this is all insinuation because you're trying to read between the lines and look at the body language. But their interpretation was he wanted to wait it out, and he thought he was good enough. But
I mean, he pitched 2 more innings in the game after he said he started feeling it.
That being said, the velocity was 1 mile per hour slower. It's hard to know if that's because it was 30 degrees or not, but it was slower. And guys have said they're fine, and they ultimately are not fine. And who better than Dansby, Swanson to represent that type of scenario?
Yeah, I'm fine if they're being cautious.
Well, they are. That's what career counsel said.
Well, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're not hiding, some other thing. But yeah, I'm fine with them being cautious. Like, the important thing is him being healthy and good to go for the long run here. And if they feel like they can better ensure that by shutting him down for a little bit here, taking a look at things, taking the foot off the gas, then that's what you want them to do. It just does bring us right to those offseason conversations where you kind of are like, man, I wish they had more top level pitching depth. I wish they had another top of the rotation starter. Like, I just wish that they had these things, because it's just uncertain what you're going to get from a lot of these guys as we go forward here. And
the problem on the market, though, not to relitigate the free agent market, but the problem was you had a lot of disadvantages to pouring out the money to those guys available. Now, the trade market's different, right? But you mentioned Luzardo. Well, he has the same injury history that you're scared with Justin Steele. In fact, even then some. Corbin Burns' velocity is decreasing. We've been talking about Ryan Presley's velocity dipping by 1 mile per hour. Everyone's freaking out, right? So there were a lot of concerns on the existing.
Out about Ryan Presley? I haven't seen that.
No, he's the closer. What are you talking about? I thought he was actually Hector Neris for a second. No, but those were the guys available. And I understand the process of not pouring money into those guys, but it is risky in the creativity to not at least fill some of those higher leverage roles elsewhere. Then that's going to be judged. If this is going to wreck the team, of course, it should be judged.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll see how it plays out. Not the news you want, but, again, and, not to harp on the record, not that they're undefeated or anything, but the way that they've played and the way that they've taken care of business does buy them a little bit. And
but they had it last year too, man. They started off fast and went to San Diego and ruined all of our lives. So I've seen this before, and I was at that game.
Well, look, all I'm saying is that it's better to be heading into this stretch of the schedule down do we call Shota the best starter now? I never know with how, people want to phrase that. One of your best starters, whoever you want to call your ace, be my guest. Down one of your best pitchers heading into this stretch against really good teams, it would look a lot more daunting if you were sitting at a 6-9 record or a 5-10 record. It would be a lot scarier to think like, man, where are they going to be after these 14 games? And yeah, so that's something that we'll have to think about. I want to hit our second ad break here, but I do want to read that question from Michael just as it relates to Cade Horton. If Horton has velo decreases and movement decreasing, then why not use him in the bullpen when that opportunity is there? And is he potentially like on an innings limit? And I think the goal for right now, and the way that I read Tommy Birch's tweet that I read out to you guys, is that he's still ramping up. He obviously missed time with an injury last year, and he's just ramping up. So as he continues to do this, continues to have more starts, his arm will get stronger and he'll be more prepared to go deeper into games and not have those velo dips.
Yeah.
Whether the Cubs decide to introduce him to the majors like they have with other guys in the bullpen, I'm not sure. That's something that they've seemingly liked to do, but it's not always what they do.
Well, the context is different. So you're talking about Keegan Thompson and Justin Steele introducing this way. We're talking about Mark Pryor 2.0 over here.
Well, let's not get carried away.
Just saying. But what, before I do the ad break here, if you think about like, okay, how many innings can he pitch for the Cubs at the big league level? If you call him up and he starts, well, let's say he averages 4 innings per start. So let's say he starts 4 to 5 times. Well, that's going to be 16 to 20 innings. Let's say you have the other 20 innings dispersed out as a reliever. Well, that means he has to pitch once every 3 days. That means that's a 2-month time span. And to your point, then you reduce him from possibly pitching even more innings in the playoffs. So you're trying to get the most value out of Horton, and it's probably as a starter and not as a reliever. But
yeah, and just to finish on that, another point that Michael brought up, like, yeah, he's likely on an innings limit. So if you're hoping to see him now, they could throw him on. I mean, now he can't pitch on Sunday. He just pitched on Thursday. But in a hypothetical world, you bring him up for a spot start, and then he gets back in the Iowa rotation, keeps starting, and then maybe you bring him up. But the thing with him is he can't come up now and start and also be starting all the way through the season. That's just not something that's going to happen. There's no way he's able to do that, given that he's working back from an injury. So my feeling when I was saying like thinking patience, like they're going to break that glass in case of emergency when they're ready to do it. And they feel like, okay, here's our plan for how we want to utilize him, not just right now, but for whatever ambitions this team has. So you don't want to wait too long. If he looks good and he's banging on the door, but he's not quite there yet.
Those are good questions, though.
Yeah, he starts pumping out starts where he's going 6-7 innings, the walks are down, the velo's consistent throughout, you'll know. You'll be hearing about it, and the banging on the door that he will be doing will be quite loud. But it's a little early to pull that. As much as I am excited to see him and dream on the potential and stuff, those are all just sort of the real life factors that they have to consider, which is why, at least in the early going for however long Steele's out, I would expect Jordan Wicks, Colin Ray, things like that, in so much as they need that 5th starter. But let's hit our second ad break here, and then we're going to come back and talk about the Cubs middle infield, which Brendan Miller has no opinions on.
0. Okay, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when they bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code CHGO365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. There's also this MLB early payout offer with the Bet365 early payout offer. You're a winner if your team goes 5 runs ahead with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. Download the app and use code CHGO365 when you sign up. And again, breaking news from 365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 win or lose. Sign up, use code CHGO365, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER, in-app only. Ray-CDJR shop savings to celebrate during the Jeep Celebration event at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Now is your chance to score a great deal on your next vehicle. Head to Ray-CDJR on Route 12 to choose from a huge inventory of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. And right now, get up to $12,000 off MSRP on select new 2024 Jeep Wrangler models with a dealer discount, or lease a new 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport 4 by E for only $129 a month. Plus, shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000 with a friendly team of brand experts. The team at Ray CDGR is here to help you during each step of your car shopping journey. Plus, they prioritize affordability. You know you won't overpay for the vehicle you need. And with Ray's Price Promise, you can shop confidently with no add-ons or hidden fees ever. The price you see is the price you pay. It is that simple. So go check out our partner today to shop one of Chicago's area's largest inventories. Find the right new vehicle for you, then drive home happy. The team at Race CDJR is the only one we recommend. Don't miss out on the Jeep Celebration event going on all month long for huge savings on your next Jeep Wrangler. For more information, visit Race CDJR today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at racecdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963.
Yes, sir. All right, Brendan. Now, listen, like, this is the area of the team I want to talk about. We can't start if it were up to me. Yeah. This would just be the Kyle Tucker Hour every Thursday at 8 p.m.
I thought you were about to talk about the middle infield. That's what you said before the ad break.
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry, I got distracted. I'm like Jack White. Every time I see a picture or a mention of Kyle Tucker, I'm, like hard eyes. I can't remember what I was going to talk about.
You do love him. Like, you've almost second.
Do you not?
Of course I do. But I haven't heard you talk about someone like this since John Lester. Every day I talk to you, it's always Kyle Tucker, Kyle Tucker, Kyle Tucker. I woke up this morning to text messages from you just for no reason whatsoever, just clamoring and being pissed off at the front office for not extending Tucker yet.
I'm smitten, Brendan. I don't know what to tell you.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's justified. But I do want to talk about the middle infield, but even before, I do want to go back to something that you mentioned. We talked about the brand of baseball the Cubs are playing. They look better, defensively on the base paths. Some mistakes in the last couple games, whatever, they'll happen. But the thing that you mentioned that just stands out, I mean, the best walk to strike out rate in the league, tied with Arizona as I'm looking at it on Fangraphs. But that is a beautiful thing. And we have seen some teams that were definitely on the opposite of of that spectrum, leading the league in strikeouts or being close to the top in that. I mean, what a beautiful sight. But for those of you, if you're joining Brendan and I the first time, obviously you guys know Luke and Cody. They're on every day. We are once a week, and we're maybe a more pulled out look, analytical look at some of the overall trends and things like that. So the reason I say that is because we could continue talking about how great Kyle Tucker and Seiya Suzuki look pacing this lineup, but we did kind of a deep dive on that last Thursday night. So it's not to say that they're not important. I would talk about Kyle Tucker all night if Brendan would let me. And as someone who has
with that.
supported
all night.
Seiya since day one, even through his worst moments, I could be yelling about how right I've been this whole time about how great of a hitter he is, but I don't have to do that. You guys get it. I do want to talk about Nico and Dansby, though, Brendan, because if I'm speaking freely, if we get a 111 WRC plus from Dansby Swanson and a 121 WRC plus from Nico Hoerner, I don't want to say that the Cubs are going to win the World Series, but their offense is going to be fantastic. The way these two have looked, both coming back from injuries, both kind of coming into this season, especially Nico, really not certain how they'd be feeling, if they would need kind of an extra ramp up or anything like that. But these guys look phenomenal all over the field.
All over the field, healthy all over the field too. And by the way, I we describe ourselves as analytical. I hate even saying that. I'm more baseball
Okay.
guy than all of you guys on the show. Just saying over
That
here.
is true.
I'm not a numbers guy. I just happen to be like into the numbers thing, but I'm
That
not a
is true.
numbers guy.
It is funny that the
You
way
know?
these shows play out, you're the one that actually played baseball at the highest level of
That's
any of
right.
us. And
Varsity.
I'm the one that worked the deepest in an analytics department in a front
What's
office.
going
Isn't that
on?
weire
I got my A2000 right over here, Gory.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the biggest
If you
baseball guy out of
watched
all
the
you
show, I
guys.
don't know that you would have pegged it that
I
way.
know. It's just I hear like, oh, we talk about WRC plus and all these. Like, these guys over here, shut the hell
Yeah.
up. You know, these aren't baseball guys. I'm a baseball guy. Anyway, speaking of rates, Nico Hoerner's whip rate is like the best in Major League Baseball, which is absurd. He entered yesterday's game with a 98% contact rate inside the strike zone. So he's whiffing only at 2 pitches for every 100 thrown inside the strike zone. It's insane. And then we look at Dansby Swanson's overall batted ball profile. There's been a few batted balls where they should have been for home runs. And then the batted ball profile backs that. His expected WOBA is 410. His actual was 326, but he's looking good. He's driving the ball to the pole side, to dead center, to the right field gap. He's making spectacular plays defensively, and he just sounds like he's himself, and he even talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Dansby, I mean, of course, these numbers are early, but it would be the highest average exit velocity of his career.
Is
A
that
lot
right?
of numbers. You're looking at barrel rates and things like that, just in line with some of the better seasons that he had in Atlanta. I mean, and right now, Dansby's rocking a 780 something OPS, I believe, and he's got a 190 BABIP, Brendan.
Is it 190?
That's what Fangraphs is
that's
telling me.
absurd. I didn't even realize it was that. It was that.
And look, like it would also be the lowest batting average of his career. But if he's gonna start hitting home runs, yeah, like I don't care. And you look back at some of the seasons that he had in Atlanta, like if he's able, he had 27 homers in 2021, 25 homers in 2022, 22 homers for the Cubs in 2023. Like you pair that level of offense with his level of defense, a healthy season, like that is going to bode really well for this team. And it goes back to something that we talked about with Kyle Tucker and especially Seiya looking the way that he has, like being able to look at these two as complementary pieces in this lineup.
That's the key word.
Yeah, Dansby sitting in the 5 or 6 spot every day. If he's able to put up numbers like this, like I don't care what his batting average is with the defense he's playing. And, look, now we've seen him do it before, but he's doing that, smooth slide into shallow left field and throwing guys out. I feel like he's doing it like every other game now. He's kind of showing off a little bit. But he looks fantastic. And these guys being able to do their thing deeper in the lineup. And, there was talk, especially in the end of 2023, like people expecting more out of Dansby and wanting him to kind of like be that guy that would come through on offense. And, over his career, that's just not who he is. No. And being able to look at him for just kind of who he is and say, hell yeah, this is a really nice compliment deeper in the lineup to what guys like Kyle Tucker and Seiya Suzuki, and Ian Happ up top and Michael Busch, complementing what those guys are doing. It's a very nice place to be. And whether they continue this level, I don't expect Nico to put up a 120 WRC plus.
You don't know that. You don't know that at all.
That's true. I do believe in him. But these guys just looking healthy, they're obviously going to do their thing up the middle. They're going to do their thing on the base paths. Nico in particular is an excellent base runner. But if they are able to contribute like this on an above average level for this offense is going to be really good. And we talked before, like you're getting that production out of the catching tandem as well. Just not having that absolute black hole from people at the back end of this lineup. You're seeing that value. This lineup feels relentless in a lot of these games. Not every day, but they feel relentless and like they're kind of a chore to pitch to, Brendan. And that is not something that we've been able to say about the Cubs offense 1 through 9 as a group in quite some time.
2 things before we move on to the bullpen and the ad break here. The first is our base coaches love them. Jose Javier, Quentin Berry at third base.
It's noticeable.
It is the most noticeable coaching change I've ever seen in my entire life.
Is that all of the credit to like Quentin
Maybe.
Berry?
Dude,
I
Jose
have no
Javier,
idea. I'm genuinely asking.
I don't know. Jose Javier is at first base. He's giving
Yeah.
out play calls like he's a quarterback
Yeah.
coach. I've never seen that in my entire life. He's like on a mission out there. So maybe it is. I don't know. But that's been noticeable. The second is the complementary pieces also include Ian Happ at leadoff. That's one of the underappreciated aspects for me that I remind myself with all the leadoff problems we've faced. This is dating back to 2017 when they lost Dexter Fowler. And Ian Happ, on his struggles, when he attempted that before Craig Counsell, he's settling in perfectly. And then you have that chore with Ian Happ. And then you follow that up with Kyle Tucker and Seiya Suzuki. And you have Michael Busch developing. Hopefully he can get more comfortable too. But to start the game off with boom, Ian Happ, then Kyle Tucker, then Seiya Suzuki. Three of the most patient, contact, power-oriented hitters in the league is absolutely your chore.
Yeah, and you look right now, like Ian Happ's not off to the best start of his career, but he's one of those guys that he's been pretty, I don't know if remarkable is a strong word, but he's been quite consistent the last few years. He's been basically a 120, 125
plate appearances.
Yeah, WRC plus guy. Like I expect him to get there. And I think that doesn't that bode even better that he's not at his, offensive norm and the offense still looks like this.
Right.
So I think you have to feel very good about the offense. Now, of course, we've seen smoke and mirrors before. They have to keep it going. They have to stay with this approach. A guy like Dansby, you need him to keep performing like this, as we've seen. Like, do they start playing through stuff and that derails things? You never know. The catching tandem, they got to keep this up. And that's something we're going to, continue to keep an eye on. PCA, Matt Shaw, are they able to get better, stay in their approach, continue improving? So it's certainly far from a foregone conclusion. But I think when you look at, as you mentioned, they're doing the fundamental things well. They're seeing a ton of pitches. They're taking their walks. They're not stepping out of their approach as an overall group. Those are really good signs. And if a guy like Ian Happ gets back to his career norms, up at the top, keeps pacing those things, you expect Kyle Tucker to keep doing what he's doing, Seiya Suzuki to keep doing what he's doing. It bodes very well for how this offense is going to continue to look throughout the season. And that I think we can have some confidence, Brendan, even with some variables like that, they're going to be able to keep up a pretty strong standard here for themselves as a group, as opposed to some of the lineups that we've seen in years past.
Agree. Okay, let's get to more of the negative side of this roster after this ad break here, Corey, and we can talk about that bullpen. But life, if it's been a little crazy lately, one thing that can help you unwind is Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies. Have you been looking for a natural way to relieve aches and discomfort? The CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp are formulated to work with your body, not against it. Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies are made to help you feel better, whether it's stress, discomfort, or just needing a little relaxation. Formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and even sleeplessness. All products are third-party lab tested and USDA organic to ensure safety and purity, especially, you need to sleep a little bit. This will help you out. It's also fast-free for shipping on every single order. And right now they're offering CHGO listeners 30% off their first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use promo code CHGO at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use code CHGO for 30% off your first order. This is the good life. Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets easier and faster than ever. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. I was tempted. I thought about it. I thought about going up to Los Angeles, going to see the Cubs.
I'll do it.
I did see those Game Time ticket prices. No other ticketing app has tempted me more to go torture myself in Dodger Stadium. But if you want to go see those West Coast,
San Diego.
I might go to San Diego. We'll see how it goes. I did go to San Diego last year with the Game Time app, but I went to the 8-0 game over there. So I was scarred, but I'll probably torture myself even more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
All right, Brendan, back in here for the last, looks like 10 minutes here. One thing before we get into the bullpen, I do just want to read this. I do want to talk about Seiya Suzuki for just one quick second.
Right.
I was looking at this the other day, and now it includes that last game where he had a triple. Seiya Suzuki's last 162 games. So if we looked at the last technical full season's worth of games that he has played, which takes us all the way back to September of 2023, Seiya has a 289 batting average with a 375 on base percentage, 499 slug, good for an 874 OPS, 375 weighted on base average, 144 WRC.
That works for me.
I don't know at what point he's had his, his valleys certainly in there, but I don't know at what point some of his haters will just appreciate this guy is a really good hitter in this league.
Well, the expectations are higher, and we've seen it. I'm serious.
He might have another level, but I'm just saying those numbers as a guy who now is not being looked at in this offense to be the star, to be the number one producer, looks mighty nice.
That's right.
And at this point, look, whether he gets back out in right field every now and again or what that all looks like, I don't know. I can't
extend Seiya Suzuki.
I have no idea what that situation is, but the dude is a really good major league hitter, and he has been at that level for a significant period of time now, and it's very exciting. And watching him do it, like I said, with someone like Kyle Tucker being that pace setter, feels really nice. Feels like a very nice 1-2 punch that the Cubs.
You ready to be negative over here? You waited to the last 10 minutes to be negative about the bullpen.
We can talk about the bullpen, yeah, if you want. We have to.
Not really, but
they have to pitch at some point. I think
at some point,
yeah. So look. We knew that this was kind of how it was going to go. They were going to have to try guys out. There was going to be, successes, failures, guys need to get their work in, et cetera, et cetera. And we knew we were going to kind of have to be along for the ride. We talked about guys like Tanner Scott. We talked about them making additions and things like that. And it didn't really happen on the significant level that we were hoping. So that's where you find it. I think the key for me is just, figuring it out as quickly as you possibly can. And I actually like the way that our guy, Cody Del Mendo, he's been tweeting about a graphic that I'm assuming he made.
He's tweeting graphs, Cody?
It's a graphic. It's the circle of trust in the bullpen.
Okay.
And he's been updating it. Like each time a guy has a good outing, they inch closer to the circle. So I think That's Julian cool. Merriweather's mostly in it, but the J is hanging out of it. Something like that.
Oh, but it's a small circle.
It is a small circle. Yes.
Very small.
It's a good way to sort of just visualize it, that some of these guys, you gotta give them a few outings and maybe a few more outings than you'd be comfortable with to kind of see what you have there before you make a decision. If you pulled the plug on every reliever 1 or 2 times, they don't look good to start the season. I mean, we'd be cycling through these guys at an unsustainable rate. There's not enough options and DFAs in the world to bake how quickly, at least just Cubs Twitter wants to remove some of these guys from the cycle. There just isn't a realistic way to make that work. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I was sort of prepared for this.
We should be prepared for this. What we also should be prepared for is reinforcements at some point. It just depends on when those reinforcements will come internally, because the options do exist. Before I show some graphs on Ben Brown, or rather Brad Keller and Brian Presley, just an update on the optionable pitchers and how they're performing in AAA. It does form the context. Actually, I think it puts people at ease given how well they performed in Iowa. So for instance, Luke Little, 4 innings pitched, no runs. Jack Neely, 3 innings pitched, no runs. Daniel Palencia has pitched 2 innings, given up a couple runs, but we also have Chris Flexen, 11 innings. He's a depth piece if they want to add him to the 40-man. He has a .87 ERA. You have Jordan Wicks coming up. You have Ethan Roberts, who pitched almost 5 innings. He's now up because of the injury to Steele. And then even Keegan Thompson, who was DFA, but still in Iowa, if you want to add him back, well, he's pitched 4 innings of no runs as well. So contrast this to last season. You didn't have the bulk of guys performing this well early on in April going into May when those injuries happened. So then that leads us to, okay, well, what about Presley and what about the guys not performing well? At what point do they remove those guys? And the question I have to that to layer on is, at what point do they make that decision with maybe some of the tweaking they're doing, if you even want to call it tweaking? So for Ryan Presley, we've heard about the fastball velocity declining, the age. He looks older, obviously. So when I see that and I look at his overall fastball shape, for instance, that's actually Brad Keller. We'll get into Brad Keller, who's more optimistic. But you look at Ryan Presley's fastball. On the left was his fastball last season. Now, the vertical line directly through the middle is basically no cut, no tail. Anything to the left means that fastball is cutting more. So when you shift your eyes to the right in 2025, you see more red fastballs to the left. That means his fastball is cutting more. So those pitches tend to be a little bit more unique than most guys' fastball. So velocity is down, but it has an interesting shape. And then his curveball is also having more sweep to it as well. I don't know if these are intentional or not, but these are 2 pitch types that do make you think, okay, are they tweaking something here? Or is this maybe explaining why the command's not good? So is this good or bad? I don't know. It's just different, right? So this is something to monitor. The velocity looks the same as last year. The pitches, they're moving a lot. Like the stuff is still there. It's a matter of command. Then if he doesn't work, okay, well, you can look at Brad Keller quickly here and I'll throw it back to you. Brad Keller may be one of those late leverage guys should they move on from Presley in the next couple of weeks. Keller's looking unbelievable, Corey. So he's throwing a sweeper that's sweeping way more, which you can see in those gold colored dots on the right versus the left. And his fastball also has more carry. So anything higher up is carrying more. And he's also like emulating Jameson Taillon's profile. Like Taillon added a sweeper and he also started to throw more sinkers and he's toying around with his kick changeup. Okay. And so they have very similar mechanics and you're seeing like Keller clean up his fastball shape dating back to when he's with the Red Sox last year when he started that process, adding a sweeper, having a tighter slider, and now toying around with this 92-mile-per-hour changeup. It starts making you think. It's like maybe Brad Keller should be stretched out. You know, he's got 4 or 5 different pitch types. So I'm being dead serious about this, right? Like, it's just crazy to see how dramatic of a change in his profile is. And that is across the entire staff, maybe one of the most intriguing major league developments so far in the pitching staff. But this is why correct counsel is so useful, because I believe all those options we just talked about, I just listed 10 guys, by the way, in AAA and the big league level. Presley's not been good enough, right? Merriweather is in and out of the circle of trust, right? I believe Craig has opportunities to toy and figure this out. Whether he does that and they are able to do it is to be determined, though.
Well, I think the speed of which is really going to be the key issue. And, you know, Brad Keller, you know, one of those guys right now, 3.6 ERA, but a 2.57 expected ERA, 1.8 FIP. So the results under the hood,
throwing 92-mile-per-hour changeups.
He looks really good. And that's one of those things we talked about in the offseason, Brendan. If you're not going to go and sign those higher price guys, which is a risky strategy anyway, you got to be able to bring these guys in and develop them and kind of unlock your own stuff. And at least to start, looks like a nice experiment that the Cubs made with Brad Keller. There was a lot of talk of that early in the offseason when some of those videos and data came out, but at least the early return looks like the Cubs have succeeded so far on one of those.
I want to rewind the clock and remember when you rolled your eyes at me when I brought his name up. Remember that?
Probably not. That probably didn't happen.
A little bit.
Before we wrap up here, the thing I would say on Presley is it's the same way I felt this whole time. It's a short leash. You don't want to give away games, but it's similar to how you thought about Kyle Hendricks last year, Brendan. Like, if there is a veteran reliever that you can unlock by letting him get his legs under him and settle in, which is a real thing for veterans, especially a guy of his age, that would be really valuable. And pulling the plug quickly may prevent you from figuring out if that's possible. Now, I don't want to watch him blow games. And, he got 3 whiffs in his last game and didn't walk anybody. So that's like a step in the right direction. Still too much hard contact, still too much contact.
I mean, it's not good enough.
It's not good enough. So I'm not suggesting we reevaluate this in June. It's an outing by outing basis. I'm just saying I always, there were calls to get him out of there 2 games into the season.
2 pitches.
All I'm saying is that you risk, there's an opportunity cost with that. Porter's already being used in the highest leverage moments. The last 3 outs, of course, are very important, but they're already using Porter as like, this is our most important reliever kind of guy. So
and his command has been significantly worse this year so far.
And so if you rush Porter, I don't know. It's a game by game basis, but we got to get out of here. Brendan and I will be back with you next week. We appreciate you joining us. Subscribe to the new CHGO Cubs exclusive YouTube page. If you're listening on the podcast feed, thank you. We will talk to you again next week. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.